now. And we did a project labor agreement, which I didn't really want to do in the beginning because I didn't want to be the union guy pushing the project labor agreement. But the other school board members of all political ideologies decided that was the best way to go, and we built our early childhood center, and it actually came in within 1% of budget, and it was on time, and the kids got to start, and we had a really good experience with it. And everybody I've ever talked to that's used a PLA has had a great experience. Actually, some districts do them over and over again because the tight time frames that you have are, especially in school, and I can't speak for municipality, especially in school projects during the summer, you have very tight time frames to do things. And this will help you get through those. And also guarantees that you'll have the best quality workers building schools for your children. You know, we always ask for the best quality teachers. I think we should have the best quality workers working on these buildings also.
Well, let me say to
and
that,
again, there's only one.
Let me say to that, yeah, that I've heard the testimony from the various unions saying this PLA project, this PLA project, and the litany was on time and under budget, on time and under budget, on time and under budget. But if your budget starts 17% higher than it would have been, being a percent or two under budget isn't such a big deal. But in terms of why ban them in the public sector, the fact is that merit shop as well as union shop contractors all pay taxes. They all send their kids to go to the schools that are built with the tax money. And really, it's a matter of fairness.
And the bids we got, again, were the same as they were before the PLA, so there was no 17% higher. That is a mistaken number, at least in our case, in real life, where it actually we did the project.
So yeah, but it defies common sense that you can exclude 75% of contractors from the bidding process and somehow
they're not excluded.
The prices will be the same. Yeah, but if they do participate, they have to completely alter their business model. They have to hire from the union hiring hall, and they have to rip off their non-union workers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Seeing none, do you have witnesses today, Senator?
I don't have a witness list. You can go ahead and call them up.
Okay. Anyone wanting to testify for and against, let's alternate.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. Brian Blunt, the General Counsel of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'd like to go on record in support of this bill. My testimony hasn't altered from House Bill 126 from Representative Vescova. We believe this is a measure that injects some much needed fairness for taxpayers in the construction process. As the Senator alluded to, between 75 and 85% of contractors are merit shop, non-union, and to exclude them from this process or to show preferential treatment against those when they are taxpayers, we believe is wrong. And that's why we support this bill. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions for this witness? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Anyone against? It's hard to say I know. I see you back there.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. Good morning, Madam Chair, honorable members of the committee. For the record, my name is Richard Craig of the United Steelworkers and Missouri AFL-CIO. Also, on behalf of Mary Berry and Katie Mendes with the AFL-CIO, we're just going on record as being opposed to this.
Do we have any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thanks.
For? Against? Anyone for informational purposes only? Okay, this concludes our hearing. Thank you so much, Senator. We appreciate you coming over.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We will now move to Representative Miller's House Bill 772, and we are ready when you are, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to bring this House bill before you. For the record, I'm Rocky Miller, representative from District 124, Lake of the Ozarks area. House Bill 772 removes large projects from state TIF overall funding from the state apportionment. What happened is There was a large development in Kansas City, and it ate up the entire program. It has a statutory limit of $32 million, and it basically shut down the program. This bill moves that large project and other like it onto another separate line. It should have probably been done when they proposed the project, or other projects like it in the future proposed to move on to separate lines, because this is a program, a standalone program that local municipalities utilize to great benefit to the area and to the state as a whole. I probably need to talk a little bit about TIFs a little bit. They've gotten a horrible reputation among some. In my opinion, some local TIFs have been used poorly. I am keenly aware of this because I was a school board member for 13 years and president and director of the Missouri School Board Association for many of them. TIFs can adversely affect schools. However, we recognized back in the early 2000s that they could start to be a problem in the Lake of the Ozarks area. So I had a meeting with a local board, cities, counties, and we formulated a plan for local TIFs. Due to mutual agreements, at least while I was there, we controlled how TIFs would be implemented so they would be beneficial to all, and they have proven to be a very, very positive effect on the region in Lake of the Ozarks area. State TIFs are already set up this way. They have a strict policy of when they can be used. To be honest, I think it's too strict, but that's a bill for another day. Create a positive cash flow back to the state in the amount of 50% of new taxes generated by the project. So under careful scrutiny, these projects are a net plus for the state, and we should continue to utilize this important tool for economic development. Thank you for allowing me to present this.
Do you have questions for this witness? Proceed.
Like my mic's not working. So first of all, I'll say, I think, sort of thank you for bringing the bill. I do think that there are some issues as it relates to TIF, and TIFs have been used in areas or in projects that they probably should not have been. I think we have seen an abuse of that, particularly in Kansas City and some parts of town that are certainly not blighted, in my opinion, diverted revenues from other taxing jurisdictions, including school districts, library districts, and the such. I sympathize with you when it comes to that. Just a quick question though, as it relates, you talked about a specific project in Kansas City. Can you speak to what project that was?
It's public knowledge. Cerner.
Okay.
Cerner ate it up. Great project, but it killed the program, a really good program.
I was just curious about that, but that, and I will say, I think that was an example, I would say, of a community in an area that definitely was blighted and in absolute need of redevelopment, and it will certainly transform the southern half of Kansas City. As you know, thousands of jobs will be coming to that area with additional ancillary projects and developments to provide services to those working there. New housing developments are popping up. And so I think that's an example of a good project. It certainly was a massive project. But again, I just wanted to, I think, comment as it relates to sort of issues that I see with TIF as well. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative,
To inquire.
proceed.
Thank you, Representative Miller. Thank you. Is this the same section we visited last year regarding the Geospatial Institute?
I have no idea. I can't remember.
I think it is. Ironically, just below your line that you added is a carve out for a former automobile manufacturing plant, which I assume would be the Chrysler plant then. And then retention of a federal employer for the 2000 geospatial intelligence jobs. I guess what I'm asking is, I like what you've done. It seems that this section perhaps needs to be reworked altogether because we're always throwing in carve-outs. It doesn't seem to apply as intended because we're trying to create jobs, use TIF in a good manner. And I guess what are your thoughts on that, Benny?
Well, I think this bill goes a long way towards exactly what you're saying there. This bill is to be sort of a a mini project themed program, you know, $32 million to handle several different projects. Well, what happens is we end up with these large projects and they eat up all the apportionment there. So what we need to do is, like you said, I don't think a total rework is necessary. I think we just say, listen, there's a large project, we separate that off. And then that takes care of that stuff down below.
So your change may actually have prevented the need to carve out the former automobile manufacturing plant and the geospatial. So hopefully we don't have to revisit this every year I'm here.
I hope not, except for, I've already mentioned one time, perhaps maybe to make this a little more rural in nature in some aspects. There's always things we're gonna deal with. Otherwise, we can go home.
That's correct. Thank
Starting
you.
to sound pretty good right now.
I like it, Bill.
Representative?
Good morning, Representative.
Morning.
I'm going to use this opportunity to educate myself. Talk to me about how the program is administered right now, the TIF program. Is there a TIF commission that kind of oversees the applications to this program, or how is it actually managed right now?
I'm going to speak very high level. The Department of Economic Development handles this program. I assume they have a committee, but I think there's someone behind me that has much more knowledge in this particular area. But they have certain aspects that they have to meet. You know, it has to be in a blighted area, which is a little iffy on occasion. But some of the weird stuff is, requires a 50-year-old building to be there, must be in a municipality or a certain type of zone and stuff. There's a lot of regulations as you go down through it. It kind of points you towards our urban areas, to be quite honest, you know, and that's a little concerning for me in some areas. But they have that, and then they decide if it truly does meet the requirements, which, you know, they've got a strict requirement. There's got to be money coming back to the state on this thing.
Got it. Okay, so there's state TIFs, and then there's also, so that everyone here understands too, there's county and local TIF. So we've got a couple different, it's not all rolling through the state. There's other TIF programs. So is your proposal when, if one of these projects, you know, one of these large projects, it falls outside of the parameters of this program, is there, you said roll it into, like put it into a different line item or something, is there, how does that actually work, right? So right now it would be within the parameters of the program. If it falls outside of this, if this is passed, is there any limit to how many projects that could be? Is there, like here, there's a dollar limit of 32 million. Would it just be kind of considered completely separate and passed on its own merits and approved on its own merits?
If we can continue, if we can keep stacking up programs or projects that add to the state revenue, I say, why put a limit on it? Let's keep stacking them up. I've already heard just this morning of an auto manufacturer that's looking pretty hard at areas here. So, I mean, it's important, and we've got to have the tools to compete with other states. And honestly, we don't have it. We need to have more. And some people say, well, you're just giving money away. Well, I don't think the people that get the good jobs out of these are going to say that we're giving money away. We're investing in our future, and that money's got to come back, especially in this project, in this program.
Got it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will just add a comment that where I'm from, Chesterfield, Missouri, you know, has, I think, one of the most successful TIF programs that there has ever been in the Missouri River bottom there. What used to be called Gumbo Flats, you know, has now become an economic generator for the entire region in terms of the development that's down there. Some may disagree with its location in the floodplain, but I think it's been tremendously successful and a good example. It could be implemented successfully.
Well, I disagree with it on the sheer fact that it's out in the malls and it takes some business away from my area. So other than that, it's a great project.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
Other questions? Some other really tough questions for those representatives? Do you have anyone here to speak in favor?
I think there is.
Oh, if that's working or not. Good morning. My name is Larry Chapman. Is that okay? I didn't know those two things.
Start making noise.
Yeah, we'll top it off. My voice is pretty good anyway. Anyway, my name is Larry Chapman. I'm a partner with North Park Partners, which is something I'm going to talk about. I'm a commercial real estate developer located in St. Louis, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit because I do have some experience actually using Super TIF. I do want to point out a couple of things. In terms of the mechanics of Super TIF, there are a couple of things that are absolutely true. First, you really can't use a state TIF until you have a local TIF. So you got to get a local TIF approved, and then you can go to the state and ask whether to use the program. The problem we're having right now is that the Kansas City project is structured in such a way that if there's any more cap space, even if you voted for more cap space, it all automatically goes to Kansas City. So what's been happening is special projects like NGA or the car plant have been requiring special legislation. So to use Super TIF in the future, everybody has to come back and get some special legislation for it. What this bill does is to take the large Kansas City project and make it like NGA. It's an appropriate use of it, and it should be treated as such, and treat it like the car plant. And then it reopens up the state TIF program to any eligible project. So now anybody who's eligible for it can use it within the cap. You can argue whether the cap's appropriate or not, but that's what happens. And so let's talk a little bit about how state TIF works. The state TIF works either on sales or earnings tax. The one that I use is the earnings tax. And the only way the state can send out $1 is if it gets $2 in. And so what has to happen is a new job has to be created. Existing jobs are not eligible. The employer has to collect the withholding tax and pay it to the state. The state has to collect it and verify it's a new job, and then it can pay back up to 50%, but not more than 50% back to that employer for a period of years it's agreed upon, not longer than the TIF itself. And so there's just no way on earth the state, like a tax credit, could issue one that have to claw back. It could never happen that way. And I think that's a really important differentiator from a lot of the programs that we have. The other thing that happens is that in order to be allowed to use Super TIF, the project has to have made an infrastructure or capital improvement that's new to the area. So you can't just say, hey, I got a job, give me money back. You actually have to reinvest in the community, and then you can recoup that portion of your invested costs. It's not just dollars back for showing up to the job. And so that's an important consideration too, because it keeps roads and utilities and other infrastructure costs in shape. It's similar to Missouri Works in that it applies to withholding taxes for new jobs. But the other thing about this that's pretty interesting is if the employer will guarantee those jobs, not the state, no listen on the state, but they'll guarantee these jobs, you can set up the Super TIF so that it can actually be sold and the project can be funded by the future revenues all up to the front end. You can actually offset project costs, which makes us competitive with other states. You have these project funds and things like that, which is something we can't use. In fact, 2 of the 4 projects we did with Express Scripts competed with other states, and we won because of this program. SKF, out-of-country manufacturer, won the state here in Ferguson, Missouri because of this program. We have another large distribution center, and right now today, we have a company that's a spin-off of Emerson that is looking at Missouri and other states, and I can tell you that if this doesn't happen, the likelihood of winning that competition is pretty low. And we know they're looking at other states because they brought us in a room and said, you're going to help us look at other states. So I'm actually going to other states and taking proposals for this company. And so that's why we want to see things like this happen. North Park is sitting on the east side of the airport in St. Louis. Ferguson and Kinloch, pretty poor communities, pretty blighted areas. We've now generated over 6,800 new jobs in that area. We hope to do another 2,000 or 3,000 jobs. And it's all because of this program, which we're really hopeful we can reopen up. I think it's a tremendous opportunity to put an economic development tool back in the hands of the state and all these local communities to compete for jobs, and you ought to pursue it. That's all I have. Happy to answer questions.
Very good information. Thank you for that. Do we have questions for this witness? None. Thank you.
Welcome.
Oh, wait, just one moment if you don't mind.
Forgive me for what I say, North Park.
Yes.
I actually sat on that TIF commission years ago.
Yes.
So I'm very familiar with the boxes and boxes and boxes of information that came out of it. So I missed your testimony, so forgive me.
That's okay.
But for years, I rolled by there after we voted on that TIF, and and saw it stall in 2008, and now I see things that are happening. Plus, I had a chance to sit down with Paul McKee and talk to him in detail. And we, as the song said, we cried together. Okay? So I'm very familiar with that. So can you briefly give me a quick synopsis?
Yeah, real quick. So the bill is about the super tip statutes. And so what's happened is projects have gobbled up all of its availability, and North Park is seeing a resurgence, as are other projects, but there's no ability to get at the cap space the way it's structured today. This bill moves special large projects into its own separate category to free up the program for every other project that's eligible in the state. North Park is one of those, but because of the recession period, we left a lot of our cap space on the table. We're now asking for an opportunity to use it now that we can. And really, that's what the legislation is about. The super tip program itself, I think, has a huge number of merits and ought to be something we all get behind. And it's certainly been beneficial for North Park, for SKF and Express Scripts and a handful of other companies, yeah.
Also with the super tip, we were supposed to also cover across the highway where the old Ford plant. So is that still going to be part of that?
If you do this legislation, it will automatically allow itself to be available to any project in Missouri that's eligible, so yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone against? Okay, 4.
Usually against my better judgment, but John Paris, on behalf of the St. Louis Economic Development Project, we just want to go on record as being in favor of the bill. It is good to create a lot of jobs. We worked with the North Fork project, and it's created a lot of work and business for the St. Louis area, and we just want to go on record as being supportive.
Thank you. Do we have questions for this witness? Seeing none? Four. Anyone else wishing to testify? Informational purposes only? Thank you, Representative. This concludes our hearing on House Bill 772 and Eco Depot.